Okay. I'm coming to you from Alabama. Hang on a minute. Hello. I'm just kidding. I use this phone to do my timer. So I know I got 10 minutes. But if you can't hear me, turn up the volume because this is very important. Okay, so this is the day that I carried my, you can't see it real good there, but you can see it pretty good, my W-2 form for the year to Montgomery. Sure did. So in 2013, thereabout, 2014, I ran for governor against Bentley. Governor Bentley. He was incumbent. So I wanted to kind of get a message out. So I did that. I carry my W-2 form to Montgomery. And there's 105 House members and 35 Senate members. So I carry my W-2 to Montgomery to show people back then what we made at the Alabama Department of Corrections as correctional officers, APO certified. I'd been at the Department of Corrections probably about 4 years at that time because I went in 2009. So I go down the halls of Montgomery and I'm thinking, politically, I said, I'll just release my tax records just to see if Governor Bentley would release his, because that was the going thing back then. So I thought that would be pretty cool. But I thought at the same time, these House members need to know how much we don't make as correction officers for the state of Alabama. At that time, I gave 105 House members, 35 senators, a redacted W-2 with my information, pertinent information off of it. But I gave every one of them in Montgomery in 2013, 2014, a copy of my W-2 form. And I thought I'd do two things: politics and help the correction officers in the state, which I was working with ACO then anyway, Alabama Correctional Organization, but I was doing both things kind of, but every time I go somewhere I try to do multiple things. Right now, the multiple thing is, watch you make sure you don't go over this 10 minutes without getting up. Now, I went down there, and as I go through the halls, I'm talking to all these guys. And they said, man, y'all don't make much, do you? I said, no. And one of them asked if we could actually be on WIC because of the amount of money we made back in that day. So I said, you know, this is what I made for a year. And that was before they mandated overtime. It was with I think it was 1 day of overtime at St. Clair Prison. And the rest of it was just base pay. And I'm going to tell you something. Back when I started, they weren't making very much. But the legislators picked up to that. And they said things need to change. And people for years, before I brought my W-2 form down there, they had talked about this. Department of Corrections doesn't pay much. They'd put hiring freezes on in the past. Governor Riley had put hiring freezes, which was terrible for ADOC. That was the start of the fall of ADOC as far as the staffing. So the legislature saw fit that we were going to get a raise. And they started giving us raises. And the correction officers in the state of Alabama make a lot of money right now. A lot of money. When I left, I was about topped out. But they had given us so many raises, they'd gotten us up there where this is, I mean, in a few years, you can make 3-digit income if you want to work overtime, if you want to. Now, staffing problems at that time, it was hard to get people to be a correction officer. But now they pay a lot of money. So what I want to do is I want to say something that the ADOC has done right. I talk bad about them, but they have hired some recruiters. I'd name them by names. I know one of them, worked with them. And they're doing a good job recruiting people as far as ADOC. Now, Limestone, where I did work, they're fully staffed is what they tell me. Now this, you can see the date when I did this video, so are fully staffed as far as they're not hiring anybody else. I think they've frozen it. I believe that's right. Whatever the case, they got plenty of officers. Now at the work release, they're so short because I think the strategy was to fill the prison up, kind of force everybody, instead of going to the work release, try to get them to the prison to fill that up, and then try to work on the staffing over the work release there in Decatur. And they're starting to build it up now, but I think they've pretty much locked in that the staffing at Limestone is sufficient, which I know they have a lot more officers. So now we make plenty of money, but years ago we didn't make plenty of money. And sometimes the legislature just has to see really what's going on before they'll move. But the Alabama legislature is honestly not our enemy anymore in Montgomery, for the most part. I think the movie, The Alabama Solution, if you Google The Alabama Solution, I'm actually in that movie, talking about accountability and things that everybody should do when nobody's looking, in the movie too. That's what I do, okay? I'm not perfect, but I know work for a perfect God, okay? And I try to apply what would Jesus do. So now the staffing levels are getting good. So ADOC has done a good job recruiting officers. Recruiting. Now that they've started going out recruiting them, and now we're making more money. But back in 2013, they laughed at me when I carried my paycheck down there. Now I know a lot of people that watch this is wondering, what's my angle? My angle is, let's talk about what's really going on in the Alabama Department of Corrections. The good, the bad, the things that are improving, the things that are not improving. But as a governor, the next governor doesn't need to freeze any hiring, doesn't need to lock these the different raises to where they can compete. So we get more staffing, but we still got to change the culture. And that takes a while. That's why we need these auditors in all these prisons, the examiner of public accounts in all the prisons. I think they weeded this thing down to, they said 3 or 4 prisons, but now somebody told me 1. I don't know. I'm real curious to see how many examiners of public accounts are going into these prisons now in Alabama. But the pay's up, staffing's getting up, culture needs to change. There's no reason for a correction officer to bring in drugs or cell phones or anything in to the prison. They make plenty of money. I'm thankful now, different than when I was in, they're not mandating overtime anymore is what I hear at the prison. That's at Limestone. Work release is mandating, which mandating is not good, okay? But things are getting better for the officers here. We got to change the culture. Change the culture. May God bless you.